and welcome to another episode of the Black and White Thinking Podcast. You are joined by Chick and G.
Hello.
How's it going?
All right. How's it going with you?
Yeah, all right, thanks. Look
Good.
at you. You remember. Nice. All right. So let's get straight into it because we don't have much time.
Okay.
So this week we are talking about, we're choosing between
Dancehall or Afro Beats?
Dancehall or Afro Beats. And I decided to come dressed for the occasion as an African auntie. So let's see if you can change my mind.
Why does that mean you've already decided that you're picking Afro Beats?
Maybe. Well, my thing is, with dancehall, we're looking at dancehall across the board because I think old dancehall was amazing. New Afro Beats has taken over from dancehall.
How's it though?
Well,
Or have they just copied dancehall?
Well, you'd know more than me. To me, it's just
Name me one Afro Beats artist.
there are lots of Nigerian ones. I don't need to know the names of them. I could tell you. Did Kevin Little do dancehall?
Not really.
You see, so I couldn't even tell you a dancehall artist.
Fair enough, but I suppose like Afrobeats has changed over the years to sound more like dancehall.
So, for those people that don't know, what's the difference between dancehall and Afrobeats?
Well, dancehall is like a Jamaica. It started in Jamaica, and is rooted in like the reggae traditions. Whereas Afrobeats, as I understand it, started with the likes of Fela Kuti back in the day, in like the 60s, 70s. It's a different drum pattern. It kind of was, but now the drums that you'll hear in modern Afrobeats, to me, just sounds like dancehall. And even like some of the like older dancehall artists, a lot of like some of the early stuff, it sort of sounded more just like a reggae sound.
Yeah.
And then sort of sped up and became its own thing. I suppose the bit like it's just like the dance music of Jamaica, if you like.
Yeah.
And I suppose Afrobeats has come to be synonymous with that sort of upbeat, like dancey sort of music.
Yeah.
All across Africa, but as you said, a lot of the big artists are like Nigeria/West Africa.
Yeah.
Because
and
even
South Africa as well. Like there's the music in South Africa has its own. Well, I guess actually would that even be classed as Afrobeats? Because like
yeah, there's definitely a distinctive sound in like the more southern regions of the continent. There's like a very distinctive guitar sound from that area, but I suppose a lot of the like the bigger artists, like I guess Burna Boy's one, Wizkid, Davido or Davido or whatever you would call him. I obviously love reggae and love all Jamaican music forms. And I feel like maybe in like the 90s, early 2000s, in like the summertime, you probably would have heard like dancehall being played, whereas more so people have gravitated towards like more Afrobeats. And there was like a big movement where a lot of like UK like rappers and stuff were having like an Afrobeat sound in their music. I think like even like Jay Huss and all were doing like that sort of sound, and like it really crossed over, and like you like for a long time you'd see Burna Boy featuring on a lot of like UK tracks. Like I still feel like summertime music is for me is dancehall. I feel like there's maybe like the more modern dancehall artists, it's all sort of turned into a bit more of like that sort of trap style. There's less variety.
Yeah.
And I feel like Afrobeats has gone the same way. It's become like one sound,
Commercialized.
like
Yeah.
artists, like all artists doing that one sound rather than the artist doing their own sound in a
Mm.
particular genre. Um, and like I was playing a little bit in the car yesterday. Like you would have had maybe in dancehall the same instrumental and like six different artists doing their own version on it, and there would
Mm.
be like six different songs.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I don't know that you get that as much, but I suppose it is like, as you say, it's commercialized. Um, but even when you go way back, like listening to like Bounty Killer and that, who became like synonymous with the genre, like some of their early stuff, it's just like it's not even really what you know is what became dancehall.
Mm.
Um, but I still think I would always favor dancehall over Afrobeats. Like I do like Afrobeats, but I just feel like, and we always end up listening to the Afrobeat show on One Extra
Yeah.
on Wednesdays, um, which is brilliant because like you do hear stuff that you wouldn't normally hear, and it's a great
Yeah.
way show. And
Yeah.
I think that probably is a good way to highlight that there is a bit more variety than what you
Mm.
just hear in the mainstream.
Yeah. But
Um,
also, like my TikTok for me is the way, especially once was it the big record label? Was it UMG or AMG, whatever they're called?
Universal.
It removed like all the big artists because they couldn't
Mm.
get a deal. So all of a sudden you start seeing up and coming artists that do their own thing. Like I've been coming across like black singers that do punk rock, and like there's this guy I found where he wrote a song for his girlfriend, and you're like, what? So then Afro beats again. Like I guess on TikTok I find different variations of what I would listen to mainstream, and I don't really listen to mainstream music
What
anymore.
was the black punk band?
It wasn't even a punk band. It was just this guy that.
Uh,
But I've saved it. I'll share. To be fair, because I should start sharing the ones that I do find because I'm finding that after that happened, because I what the algorithm just knows that like we're into music, it'll suggest things that come up, and I find that really interesting.
because there was a huge uh, punk band back in the day called Bad Brains.
Right.
The lead singer was a black guy with dreadlocks.
Oh, there you go. But anyway, my point to all of that is the fact that I think you're right in the not only is it all being commercialized, it all sounds the same. And even when you see like Wizkid featured on something, it's the same type of sound, even if it's like with different artists. Like if you look at Beyonce's album, whoever she's got on there that would be the Afro beats type of person, you're not really hearing anything different, even if it's supposed to have like a country theme to it. I think there's been there's a laziness.
Although some of the what was that? The the woman who had a big hit that was it? Oh, I can't even remember. It was everywhere for ages.
Was this recent?
Yeah, it was all over TikTok. Make Me
Oh,
Hotter, that
oh,
one.
Tyler.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's technically Afrobeats, isn't it?
yeah. I guess it technically is.
So,
Do you know what? And she is big on TikTok. Like I love her music. But again, I've seen a lot of people say that some of her music is sounding the same, and it's sounding the same because now she is becoming commercialized. So obviously, whoever she's working with is going, well, this has worked to do a little bit more of this.
hmm,
But I think that you know where dancehall came from, so you know why you love dancehall versus someone like me where dancehall's affected Afro beats, but then I also grew up with my own version of Zambian music that, like you said, the show on Wednesdays that we listen to it on the way back.
DJ Edu.
Yeah, there's to me whenever we listen to that, like that is nostalgic for me because there's a sound that I grew up listening to. So I love Afro beats because for me, Afro beats isn't just like we said about South Africa having its own or the southern.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a like it's a obviously within even Zambia, like over the years, like we've listened to stuff that sounds like punk rock
Yeah,
and roll and heavy
yeah,
metal, and then you've got more gospely stuff that your
mm,
folks love, and
yeah,
like Pompey, who we both like as well, and
yeah,
like even on his albums, there's some stuff that's got that like Afrobeats drum signature and stuff.
mm,
Um, so it's not that like there's just one genre, but obviously we're
exactly.
focusing on one genre. But
Yeah,
I think it's as you say, when a sound gets popular, people will gravitate towards that. But then, if I'm sure, like if you listen to people's albums, they're not just doing one sound on an
Yeah.
album. And like the likes of Burna Boy, when you see his NPR set, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
it's such a range of sounds and like brilliant musicians, brilliant singers, and that goes like across the whole continent. Like
Yeah.
even like I've listened to music from all over Africa for a long time. Like
Yeah.
some of the stuff more like I guess I can't remember. Oh, the that instrument, the kora. It
Mm.
sounds like somebody playing six guitars at once
Yeah.
from like more northern countries.
Yeah.
Or that girl, is it Sona Jabarde from Gambia, who plays the kora as well, is incredible.
Oh, was that the one you were
Um,
saying? Like, because men wouldn't,
yeah,
like, men
yeah.
would have played
But her
it. Yes.
dad taught her.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
Um, and even within that, you hear like the drumming that's synonymous with Afro beats.
Mm.
Um, but as you say, it's just like we get pushed certain artists who are big at a certain time, so it feels
Mm.
like there's just one sound.
Yeah.
And I feel like dancehall has gone a little bit that way, but I still feel like within dancehall there's still a bit, for me, a bit more of a variety because you have different artists who have come from different aspects of it. Like there's a singer,
Mm.
Tommy Lee,
Mm.
in Jamaica, who when he started out, he was trying to create this like dancehall gothic genre that he wanted to push, and it was all like really like kind of dark and but he's massive now, and he still brings it, his own flavor to it. Then
Yeah.
you've got Popcorn, as I like to call him,
Yeah.
who is essentially a dancehall artist,
Yeah.
but if you listen to his albums, you couldn't say that that's a dancehall album.
Yeah.
Um, and that Byron Messiah song, Taliban's, that went really big.
Mm.
Um, I still feel like there's more of a variety in dancehall than perhaps we hear in Afrobeats, but maybe it's just because we only get to hear a certain number of Afrobeats artists.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, because what you're making me think there as well is if you think about the whole continent of Africa versus Jamaica, we're talking about continent versus a country. So I'd, I'd actually also go towards you because what is Afrobeats? I couldn't answer what Afrobeats is because, like, you can hone in on Jamaica and you just mentioned loads of different artists that will have the dance hall as like their foundation and then we'll do different things. And I'm not saying that we don't have Afrobeats as a foundation, but like you just said, think about the musicians, the Zambian musicians we listen to versus everyone else you've mentioned. They don't come from an Afrobeats foundation. They come from the way that things might have been done traditionally, like with the drums, and that's its own sound that isn't Afrobeats. So you're actually making me now go towards dancehall because to me, if we removed Afro beats, I think a lot of African music would still be a vibe. It'd still be amazing.
oh,
It's
aye.
still, yeah.
Even going like way back to like Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba from South Africa,
Mm.
like their music is still brilliant today. And I
Mm.
mean, Hugh Masekela's big song "Grazing in the Grass." There's no vocals in it.
Mm.
It's him. He was a jazz trumpet player.
Right.
And I think though that Amapiano
Yeah.
music has got quite big at the minute, which
Yeah. I was going to say that, but I was
is
like, I don't know that. Is it I'm a piano or I'm a piano? Like, yeah, whatever it is.
and I think that's more typically of that southern region
Mm.
sound. Um, but I mean, I think like we mentioned, the DJ Edu's show on One Extra on Wednesdays is brilliant because it shows you more than
Yeah.
the few big artists who are destined to push that sound at that
Yeah.
particular time.
Yeah.
And as I always complained about, they never showed the names of the artists or the songs,
Yeah. Till
on
this
the
week.
display. And last week or so, I noticed that they started to show the names. So
Yeah.
It's a really good show to show you the breadth of the Afrobeat sound rather than just a few artists from Nigeria.
Mm.
Um, and it's funny though because like over the years of being into dancehall and Jamaican music as a whole, there have been some artists from like Nigeria and even in Zimbabwe, there's a genre called Zim dancehall,
Oh, is it?
which is their take on
Yeah.
dancehall, and it's really popular.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the most popular genres in that country, I believe, with
Class.
the younger generation. Um, so and like the dancehall sound has spread all across the world. I'm
Yeah.
sure in any country, you I would probably say there's somebody in it doing dancehall of some kind.
Yeah. It has its influence so much.
Like there's even younger guys here who do dancehall.
Yeah.
Obviously not Northern Ireland natives, but
Mm.
or they maybe have a like Afro Caribbean background.
Yeah.
Um, but even the influence of dancehall to me has like I think there's because I also love grime as well. Like
Mm.
I feel like there's a lot of those guys who maybe wouldn't have got into being MCs without the likes of Shabba Ranks and Bounty Killer and Supercat, like some of the
Yeah.
old school dancehall guys. Um, and like I think to me, dancehall has stood the test of time because those guys are like Supercat is one of the legends. He doesn't do a lot of shows, but when he
Mm.
does, they're sellouts.
Yeah.
And he'll maybe do like a couple of years and go to like New York or whatever and
Mm.
do and sell it out. Same as Shabba Ranks. Like Shabba doesn't do a lot of shows, but Shabba really took dancehall to the world and made it
Mm.
massive. Um, and like Buju Banton, his early albums are from the dancehall sound, and he went a bit more conscious. But like, there's so many of them who have like 30, 40 plus year careers who started out in that dancehall school, like Beanie Man.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Beanie Man,
Yeah.
and they probably know Beanie Man as like more poppy sound and stuff. But
Mm.
when you see him back in the day, like really honed his craft in that school of like Ninja Man, Bounty Killer, Buju, Sizzla, Beanie Man. Um,
Have we watched any of these? Like, have they done any NPRs?
no.
Oh my god, my pollen.
I think some of them struggle with visa issues,
Mm.
um, due to issues in their background. But
Yeah.
I think, I saw, did I see recently Buju Banton has just got a visa back for America.
Right.
And a lot of them, like, there's a big show in England, and I think it's in Milton Keynes, where it's like a big reggae concert.
Right.
I think Popcorn's playing at it. Um, so it still has, like, to me, dancehall has more of a wider appeal than Afrobeats does. Like,
Mm.
I think you're probably more likely to find a wider range of people listening to dancehall than perhaps you would with Afrobeats.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not me saying one's better than the other. Like I
Mm.
just have listened to Jamaican music in all its forms for a long time, and I do love music from all over Africa. But I
Yeah.
just feel like dancehall is a good one. It's good party music. It's good summertime music.
Mm.
Um, and I think, like I said, it has more of a mass appeal maybe than Afrobeats does. But I suppose maybe is that more like the more modern dancehall artists because some of the stuff back in the day was all like gun talk and gangsters
Mm.
and bad man this and who's the best, and whereas I think it's somewhat has mellowed. Like there's still that vein of talking about gangs and violence and blah
Yeah.
blah blah. But I think the more mainstream stuff is more broad appeal.
Mm.
Whereas arguably it's probably mostly Africans listening to Afro beats.
But then think about how many Africans there are.
No, but do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in terms of like say in the UK, for instance,
Mm.
or like whereas I feel like dancehall has a wider appeal. Maybe I could be wrong amongst those not of that background.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, is in the sense of when you look at Jamaica versus Africa. If dancehall has had the influence it has had versus Afro beats, where you've got a whole continent, depending where you go, that's influenced a little bit by that. That's where my respect for dancehall then comes in because, like you're saying, with Afro beats, with my background, I will sit down with someone like you and go, oh, like this type of like this song, and introduce you to that. Whereas dancehall just seems to be, as a whole, it's for it coming from such a small place, it's done really well because how is it that it's all around the world when it started with a small group of people?
But that's Jamaican music
Yeah,
generally. Like there's
yeah,
so many genres and so many subgenres of it that
mm.
like drum and bass, for example. We wouldn't have drum and bass without Jamaican music.
As if,
Arguably, you wouldn't have rap and hip hop as it has become
mm.
without the Jamaican influence. Like
Yeah,
DJ Kool Herc, one of the originators of rap and hip hop culture, is of Jamaican background.
wild.
Biggie is essentially a
Oh
Jamaican guy.
yeah,
You know, lots of them. I believe Method Man maybe has some Jamaican heritage. Like, there's so many of them.
yeah,
And like electronic music and sampling can trace its roots back to Jamaican music and sound
yeah,
system culture.
yeah,
And like dancehall really grew up out of the sound system culture where you had like an MC on the mic.
mm.
Um, you know, what they call toasting is essentially rapping in simple terms over
Mm.
an instrumental, and then it was like who's better, and you would have different clashes and different sound systems, and
Yeah,
like some of the old clips from like there's a festival in Jamaica called Sting, and it's like dancehall music, but it's a live band playing dancehall, and
right.
it's incredible. Like the musicians are incredible, and like the performances, like they're such high energy,
Mm.
and you don't hear it in their voice. You know, like they'll be
Yeah,
jumping and doing high kicking,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like
I
I
find
think I
that
showed you
incredible.
some
Yeah,
like Anthony B.
yeah.
Not necessarily a dancehall artist, but he does bring that sound into some of his live shows.
Mm.
Like
Whereas I was singing in the shower, scraping it down, and I was like, you can hear as I'm moving, it's all changing. Like I really do. Like I props to them.
but then to going like way back in Jamaican music history too, there is a big African influence because
Yeah,
um
no slavery.
like well one of the an early track by the Folks Brothers, O Carolina, um he it was produced by Prince Buster, who was massive in ska, in this sort of ska scene,
Right.
early reggae, but he brought I've forgotten Count Ossie is the drummer. So he
Mm.
was like a Rasta elder. He was the drumming. It's called Nyabingi, and it's like this style of drumming, but that directly comes from a style of drumming in West Africa.
Yeah,
So there's those roots of African influence in
yeah.
Jamaican music, but I think out of all of that, then dancehall sort of became its own thing,
Mm.
and I feel like modern Afrobeats has borrowed a lot from dancehall.
Which is then funny because if you look at that, that's a whole circular
Mm,
thing. But I think that's where, like you were saying, we're focusing on one thing or the other because it is so intricate and it is complicated. But when you look at Afrobeats as a whole, African music, the drums, the no, like all the instruments have meanings. The way things are sung, sang have meanings. All of that has such a meaning that you can't have one without the other. It's all influenced it. But to me, when you break it down into the two, if we ignore everything else and just look at the two, like you're saying, dancehall's affected
I feel like
modern
you,
music today as
yeah,
well.
I feel like you wouldn't have the modern style of Afrobeats without
Without,
dancehall and what dancehall did before that in the 90s and 2000s.
mm,
Um, and even like songs like that Egyptian song
mm,
that sort of had a little bit of a renaissance, even
yeah.
played Jack Lazowski used it as his walk on in the snooker.
Oh my god, he did, didn't
Yeah,
he?
but I think that's then come from it being on the thing I showed you. It was Kai Sanat on one of his streams.
Right,
I think maybe Chunks and Philly were in it too, and like it
right.
came on and they all like bounced out and were singing along to it. But I mean that song was like early mid 2000s,
Yeah.
and it's still a brilliant. Like I played it yesterday in the car. It's still a brilliant song.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's almost like a classic, like sort of modern dancehall song nowadays.
Yeah.
And then before that, I played like Press Trigger by Mad Cobra, which is a very classic 90s dancehall song
Mm.
about guns.
Right.
But on the same instrumental, then Sean Paul did Give Me the Light, which was a
Wild.
massive commercial
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I love those days.
so, well, I think Give Me the Light was probably early 2000s,
Yeah.
which is mad to think of. It's
I know.
almost 20 years old now. Um, so I guess like Sean Paul even did a bit to bring that sort of dancehall culture to the masses
Yeah.
too in that era after the likes of Shabba and Bounty Killer and
Yeah.
even an artist Assassin who was
Yeah.
massive. He changed his name to Agent Sasco to get away from that like
Right.
whole gangster image, and he had a bit of a renaissance. His album Hope River is brilliant, and he sort of changed. He still does like some quality like dancehall style tracks,
Mm.
but he sort of grew and developed a sound, and um, I just feel in the dancehall field there's a more of a breadth of sound, I guess because it's maybe more mature,
Yeah.
whereas the Afro beats as we know it today is still is still growing and developing.
Yeah.
So maybe in another 20 years
Yeah.
there'll be that same breadth of talent where artists feel like they don't have to just make that typical sound.
Yeah.
They can make different tracks and people they'll have a fan base where people will be with them and they're prepared to listen to more like different styles in the same genre.
Yeah, because I think especially going back to like how I consume like music on TikTok, Afro beats has opened the door for like we talked about South African music, but you look at some of those genres, I'm seeing a lot more of that coming up. So I think you're right that as time goes on, something that I grew up with, people will eventually like it'll be mainstream and it'll be easier to find. Not that it's even easier to find because if you search for it on Apple Music, if you know about it, you can search for it and it's not actually that hard to find anymore, but it's just knowing what you're looking for. Because again, African music as a whole, like it's that's got its own different
It's
genres. Like
fast.
you've yeah, and you've touched on some of those from gospel to Afro beats. Like there's just so much that like I'm excited to see how people start to look at music in that sense. It'd be really interesting actually to look back even a year, look
Well,
back and see where things are because the way that you consume or learn about like new musicians is different to me. So are we gonna find some kind of a common ground? Like where I'm talking about TikTok, you might be on YouTube Shorts or YouTube and come across someone that we can then both go, oh yeah, there you go. I think that's when you'll start to go, yeah, it is branching out. We are starting to see because otherwise, again, Wednesdays, would I have known that the Afrobeat show was on? No, it's just because we happen to be in the car every Wednesday at a certain time.
and that's a great way in.
Yeah,
Um,
really is.
and you can get you can get those shows on the like on the BBC Sounds
Mm,
site and app and
yeah,
stuff. So,
that's true.
but it's a great way into that genre of music.
Yeah,
Um, and I love it, always have. But I think I'm always gonna pick dancehall
mm,
because for me it goes even as far back as like music in the 1970s,
yeah,
right up to today with like Baron Messiah and Tommy Lee and Popcorn and all those guys who are doing it now.
yeah. I'm gonna have to go with you as well, and
Yes.
but in the sense that again, like you put on a lot of music for me, and you introduced me to music that I wasn't aware of, and I didn't know some of the links as well. So if we were to pick one, am I happy with what I've been listening to so far? Absolutely. And again, if we remove Afro beats, I've still got lots of different genres of African music I can still listen to. I'm not gonna miss it is what I'm trying to say because I can still hear elements in dance hall in different types of music. And for me, it's about the feeling as well as like the excitement and the dancing. And again, because of culture and how I've been brought up, I know that it's the the instruments, it's the stories, it's so much more than just a particular sound. Fair play.
So dancehall it is.
That's all it is. I'm surprised. Well done, you. Breadth of knowledge as well. Like, I find it fascinating just like listening to talk about all of this. Very cool. Okay, right. Do you know what? Well, we won't even do an Am I the A-hole on this one. We'll leave it there. Fabulous. Okay, well, thank you for your knowledge because I couldn't have sat and talked about that for that long. But yeah, you guys keep liking, subscribing, give us ideas if you've got dilemmas or anything. Actually, this is a new thing that I've decided to start. Rather than always looking for am I the a-hole, if you've got advice that you need, ask us and we'll answer some bits. Because I think it'll also be nice, because like I get stuff on TikTok all the time and I realise, well, actually, rather than searching for stuff, why don't we start putting them together and then, yeah, answering some of your questions. So yeah, keep liking, subscribing, leaving comments, doing everything that you do. We appreciate it, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Peace out.